Alright, here's another video of taking apart the Marlin Model 60 action assembly, and I'm going to add a couple of tips and tricks to this one. How to deal with the hammer spring, and also how to deal with the common problem that the lifter spring wire can drag against this side plate, eventually gouging it, and you'll have slow lift, and it can cause jamming. So I want to show you how to look out for that. So let's take this apart. You're going to need a paper clip, and I made a tool out of a cheap screwdriver. I bent the tip, slotted the tip with a Dremel, made a little fork out of it, and then I cut the end off and beveled it for push-on E-clips. So let's push the hammer back a little bit, and if the hammer's cocked, you can just push on this disconnector. Keep your thumb on the hammer so it don't fly away, like that, and it'll expose a little hole here for, put your paper clip in there, and then the hammer spring is unloaded. I use the acronym HELP, hammer spring, ejector spring, this one, and L for last shot hold open spring, and P is for proceed. So that was H, hammer spring, ejector wire. Just kind of pop that off. Really. And unload that one. Here's the last shot hold open one. Go in a couple coils and it just comes off like that. And then those three springs are disarmed or unloaded. And pop off the E-clips. Kind of put your finger over the top of them so they don't fly. Kind of learn that the hard way. That's that. So now that it's like that, you can take that off and that off, buffer off if you want. Unload the sear spring right there. So the sear comes off, and you see the sear spring and the last shot hold open spring are kind of nestled within the sear, and that's fine. They'll just fall apart until we reassemble it. It's so dirty. And here's the hammer and spring assembly, and we'll show you how to do that in the next editing. But what's interesting about this is the hammer spring, and inside the spring is called the strut. This is called the strut bridge. Strut bridge has a little trick to it. There's a notch in this corner that you don't notice, and that notch is to clear the disconnector. So if you accidentally assemble this wrong and the notch isn't there, the gun won't operate. It might not even go back together, but that's frustrating. So in the next video we'll show you how to undo the spring. Okay, so here's our hammer and spring assembly, and what I do here is put this in the vise like this, kind of square it up, get it pretty tight. Doesn't have to be too tight. Of course, you know what I'm going to do. I'm going to push in the spring a little bit, and I grab this for handle, push in the spring, take out the safety or the paper clip, and that's it. So then to reassemble, stick it in there, and as you compress it, you're trying to find that slot blindly where the strut went. So there, I found it. That goes in. Good to go. That's how you do it. And then always double check to make sure that that disconnector notch is where it's supposed to be. Now we'll reassemble. Alright, time to reassemble. the hammer back on. Make sure the strut finds its hole there. Buffer. The sear going. Okay, let it hang halfway there because we got to put the sear spring on. And we got to put the last shot hold open spring on. On the peg. You just kind of let it like that. And the springs will hang up on the shoulders of the pin, so you kind of got to wiggle it to make sure that the sear goes all the way down, and it is. And you always make sure the hammer's all the way down, and it is. So you kind of load up the sear spring now. Like that. Put on the ejector wire. Put on the feed throat and lifter. Let's put the side plate back on. Let's make sure the disconnector or the latch hold open lever is free. And what usually hangs up is right here, so you just kind of got to wiggle it around to get that strut bridge that we talked about before. That's got to find its hole. That's usually what hangs up. Just kind of wiggle it around. Oh, I can see it's a little high. Just kind of give it a kick in. Like that. It all settles in real sweet. Don't have to force anything. Let's put the E-clips back on. You know, challenge your kids or grandkids to do this, because this will really impress the socks off of anybody. Yeah, I've done it a few hundred times, but I mean, I'd really like to have a kid do it. Alright, so now, remember HELP? Doesn't really matter what order you go back into, but we'll go H for hammer. So just cock the hammer, take the paper clip out. E for ejector wire, let's put that back on. Let's gotta shove that all the way down underneath the lifter. Get that there like that, and kind of exercise it a little bit. Make sure, this is another video, but that lifter leg of that spring, if it drags on the side plate, you can take your Dremel tool. I'm going to show you how to do that right now. It's so easy. Just pop that off, pop that back off. And if it's dragging too much, see how I exposed this leg, spring leg right there? You just grab your Dremel. Kind of draw back on a little bit. Shortening it up a little bit. And that's all you gotta do. Pop it back in, do that. Exercise a little bit, make sure everything's working fine. And that clears, that's not dragging anymore. Interesting. Okay, so that's good. HELP, L, last shot hold open. Okay, pop this guy on. I'm gonna use this spring fork to grab it. On there. There, that's on there. That's it. There you go. Well, that's how you get everything back together. This Aero Dodger. Thanks for watching again. Take care. Bye-bye.